This is not what we voted for, you guys. This is not it. Doctors should not be afraid to do their job. And that is the case here in Iowa. It's not that they don't want to help us. It's that they are afraid to do their job and save our lives. Politics and religion have no place in healthcare. They have no place on my body, on my...
Imagine choosing to actively ignore people for years, ever since the discussion of the overturning of Roe v. Wade even came into existence, and people were sounding the alarm and saying, y'all don't understand what you're voting for here. If you do this, you're going to cost women their lives. Called liars, gaslighters, fearmongers, told we didn't know what we were talking about, telling us that, oh, well, don't worry, medically necessary procedures are still going to be available to people. We were the ones that put on our listening ears to hear the doctors say, when this happens and there's ambiguity in the law and we're not sure how to treat our patients, and not only will our medical license be in jeopardy, but us as individuals, because in the case of places like Texas, where the Attorney General is actually trying to arrest doctors for giving life-saving health care, that's the problem. And we've been saying it for years now. Have you not seen anybody else talking about it? Do you feel like you are the very first person to go through this experience? Or is it because now that it's affecting you, now you understand what the fuck the rest of us were saying?
I'm gonna say the meanest thing I could possibly say to these Trump voters posting self-pity videos because they're suffering due to his policies. Now, I don't do personal attacks, so I'm just gonna tell you the truth, because sometimes the truth hurts. You don't get to complain. You definitely don't get to complain about the lack of leadership or ideas coming from Democrats, because we didn't do this to us. You did this to us. If you and I are driving down the interstate together and you reach over and grab the wheel, and you steer us into a 200-foot deep ravine full of lava and sharks because you think big interstate is corrupt and you thought it would be funny to shake things up, when I scream at you as lava sharks eat our legs, you don't get to be mad at me for being mad at you, because it was my idea to stay on the interstate, and it was your idea that ruined everything for both of us. You don't get to ask what Democrats would do differently with the economy. You don't get to ask what Democrats are doing to help us right now. Those are 2024 questions, but we're in 2025 consequences. This era of the United States right now, this is about the president you elected, the cabinet secretaries your Senate confirmed, the cowering Republicans you elected to obey him in Congress, and all of the very real consequences resulting. We told you these things were going to happen, and we gave you lots of warnings, but you grabbed the wheel anyway. If you want to know what Democrats would do differently, look at the track record going back to the Great Depression. Economic growth, job growth, wage growth, retirement plan growth, all of these things have been better under Democratic leadership than Republican. If you like these things, you vote for Democrats, because it's what Democrats do. I don't care if you like the Democratic candidate. I don't even care if you understand how the policies work. And I'm not going to ask you if you believe me, because every chart and every graph that matters at the highest level for the middle class proves me right over the past 100 years. I'm only going to ask you that over the next year and a half, you come to grips with this fact, so you don't make the same mistake again.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's topic is one that is generating plenty of debate across social media and even in the political discussions. Yes, so now before we jump into conclusions, let's just remember that millions of Americans, they voted for different reasons. Not every voter has had the same experience, and not everyone agrees on whether current economic or political outcomes are directly connected to election choices. So we are just here to explore the arguments while keeping the discussion balanced and grounded. Let's just get into these clips. I'll be back with more commentaries. Stay tuned.
It's financially as well as emotionally. It takes a toll.
Vincent, you voted for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
He thought the Trump administration was going to focus solely on deporting criminals. It seems immigration officials, he says, are just trying to meet quotas now. 6 Nicaraguan men who on May 27th were detained along US 1 in Sugarloaf Key on their way to a job. Their immigration attorney says it should not have happened because 5 of the 6 have their paperwork in order with pending asylum cases. Vincent Scardina is the owner of the roofing company where they worked. He's owned it 37 years.
You become their friends, just not an employer, but a friend. And you see what happens to their family. It's quite a shock.
Given his support for the president, we asked what he would tell the commander-in-chief if he had a chance.
What happened here? This situation is just totally, just blatantly not at all what they said it was.
We didn't vote for this though, people. I sure as hell didn't. We voted for him to do better, to fix our economy. We voted for cheaper gas, cheaper food, cheaper insurance. We got none of that. None of that. As a matter of fact, it's higher. It's way higher. And what do we got to say to this idiot to get him to understand we're hurting out here?
Do you remember when Trump called all Mexicans rapists and murderers and criminals? Do you remember when he said all of them are that way? All of them that come across the border? And then we all were shocked when we saw so many Hispanic, Latinos, and people of different ethnicities voting for Donald Trump after hearing something like that. Well, I'm about to show you a guy who just got pulled over because he was racially profiled. Yet he voted for Donald Trump, and now he's having this aha moment that Trump sees all of them the same, and now he's regretting his vote. Watch.
Police car behind me put the lights on, so I stepped on the side, right, to let him pass through, but it didn't happen. So he just parked in front of my car, the other one parked behind me, and they just got out of the car with the guns in the hands and say, turn off the car, give me the keys, open the window. And at this point, they didn't ask me for any ID.
Because you're being racially profiled.
The officer, if I can give him the ID, but he said that just keep my hands up, not moving. After that, he told me to get out of the car, and then he put the handcuffs on me. And then he went to me and said, how did I get into this country? And if I was waiting for court or if I have any case. And he looked at his other partner like, you know, smiling, like saying, can you believe this guy? At this point, I was with handcuffs sitting on the sidewalk. And then he took my ID and saw that it was a real ID. The other guy said, take the handcuffs off. Take the handcuffs off. I was Trump supporter. I voted for Trump last elections, but because I thought it was going to be the things, you know, like be pointless, like just go against criminals. Not every illegal Hispanic looking like that. They will assume we are illegals. That's what they're doing now. They're just following Hispanic people looking like, because they didn't ask me for anything.
There's one thing that all Trump supporters have in common. They all think the horrible things that Trump said he was going to do would never touch them, would never happen to them. So they didn't care. They wanted to happen to somebody else. They didn't think it would happen to themselves. Surprise, surprise. All my love.
You know I love a good FAFO moment, and this one could land in the top 10. A Venezuelan immigrant and his Trump-supporting wife decided to spend their honeymoon at Donald Trump's Doral Resort in Florida. They had hoped to be able to meet the president. Instead, he ended up in ICE detention for 3 months. According to reports, he had a pending asylum case, no criminal record, and he was in the immigration system. He had an encounter with security at the resort, and it was brought to their attention. The family says they've spent tens of thousands of dollars now on legal fees and bonds trying to get him released. However, this is the part that's making the internet do a double take. His wife says she still supports Trump. If you vote for massive deportations without due process and billions of dollars in taxpayer funds going to ICE, don't act surprised when they show up in your driveway. Or, I guess in this case, your honeymoon suite.
You know, one thing that we have seen repeatedly in American politics is that elections come with consequences. Every administration introduces new policies that create winners and also losers depending on people's jobs, depending on people's businesses, incomes, and also communities. Some commentators online, while I was perusing through the social media, they argue that certain voters expected lower prices, that some voters expected stronger job security or immediate economic improvements. So when reality does not match expectations, disappointment naturally follows. But that's not unique to one political party. It has happened under Republican and Democratic administrations alike. That's why it's always worth asking, were expectations realistic, or were campaign promises simply harder to deliver than many believed. Yes, politics is rarely as simple as saying this group voted for this, so now they are suffering. And the economy is influenced by many factors. It is influenced by inflation, by global markets, it is influenced by supply chains, it is influenced by interest rates, by business investment, and even international events. While government policies certainly matter, they are only one part of the picture. Some Trump supporters remain strongly satisfied with their vote because they prioritize issues like immigration, like taxes or judicial appointments over short-term economic concerns. But others, however, they have publicly expressed frustration over issues such as rising costs, health care, or changes affecting local industries. And this highlights an important point that voters often support candidates based on multiple priorities, not just one issue. And it also reminds us that political decisions usually involve trade-offs. A policy that benefits one industry may create challenges for another. And what seems like a victory for one community may feel like a setback for another. And another interesting aspect is how quickly public opinion can shift. During elections or during election campaigns, emotions often run high. People believe their preferred candidate will solve major problems quickly. But governing is much more complicated than campaigning. When expectations collide with reality, frustration can emerge, even among loyal supporters. And that does not necessarily mean that voters regret everything about their decision. Some may simply be disappointed with specific outcomes while continuing to support the broader political agenda. So it's also worth noting that social media tends to amplify the loudest voices. Anyway, that's why it's just important not to generalize an entire voting bloc based on a handful of interviews or viral clips. Guys, I'm unwell, but I'm trying because we have to put food on the table. So at the end of the day, democracy means voters evaluate leaders based on results and make new decisions in future elections. So whether someone believes Trump's policies have helped or hurt the country depends on the evidence they find most convincing and the issues they care about most. The important lesson is that every election has consequences, and every voter lives with the outcomes and whether those outcomes meet their expectations or not. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just tell me, do you think voters are experiencing the consequences they expected? Or do you believe the situation is more complicated than headlines suggest? Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this commentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts respectfully, your opinions in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.